So how long ago are we talking about when you experienced what it was like to be homeless?
We're nearly 20 years now. It's probably only about 6 years since I realised I was homeless. I didn't at the time. At the time, I'd recently split up, was going through a divorce, was paying maintenance for children, trying to hold down quite a tough job, travelling back and forward to see the kids, and just ended up that sleeping in the car was the only option for me. I always remember pulling into a car park at work, and a social worker saw me kind of rummaging through the boot, and she actually said to me, "It looks as though you've got your whole life in that boot." And it was like, yeah, I probably have actually. But it was only when I did a big sleep out 6 years ago, and the guy running it was talking about, it's not just the people that you see on the streets. There are hundreds of thousands of people that are sheltering in kind of couch surfing scenarios, and people sleeping in the back of the car. And it suddenly hit me, Christ, that's what I used to do. I did that for about 3 months. First pulling up at lay-bys, then pulling up in housing estates because I didn't feel safe. And yeah, that's the point at which I realised I was actually homeless.
Tell me, did it happen overnight, or were you given time to prepare, or possibly, the fact that you ended up living in a car and you only realised afterwards that perhaps it did come across really quickly?
It absolutely happened quickly. We decided to separate. I spent the first night in a hotel. It was near the end of the month, so there's never enough money for the month. And I just found myself with no option. Either I slept on the street, I went around to a mate, I wasn't ready to talk, or I slept in the back of my car. And it was a simple choice.
How did you balance that kind of normal day, or even could you spell out the job you were doing and then literally returning to the car?
Yeah, a normal day, that's a really good question, because actually a normal day for me started at around about 5 o'clock in the morning, because I wanted to get up and get out of wherever I was. So if I found myself sleeping in a housing estate for safety, then I wanted to get up and out so nobody saw me. So I'd go into work, I'd kind of get the best wash I could possibly, pack stuff back in the car, and then I'd go and do a full day's work, try and work through to as late as possible, 8, 9 o'clock if I wasn't seeing the kids, and then go and try and find somewhere different and drive around it. Sometimes it took hours to try and find somewhere, and repeat all over again. And you don't get a lot of sleep in the back of a car. So you do, you're not the most fragrant and you're not the most comfortable.
So were you able to share, this kind of really difficult situation or misery with work colleagues, or maybe did you feel embarrassed and try to shield it from them?
I didn't share it with anybody. I was completely embarrassed, hence getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting into work. I was a senior director, I was a director of finance at a very large metropolitan and then city council, and yeah, I was embarrassed to say that was a situation I found myself in. So I didn't talk to anyone, and that started to lead to worse mental health problems, not only the difficulty of going through a divorce, but not getting sleep, worrying about money. It wasn't a great time in my life.
So one assumes many others like yourselves have experienced similar life changes rapidly, also have to pretend to continue as normal whilst at the same time being torn apart. Clearly you've recovered from that experience, being homeless, and continued in your career, but it's also clear that those days you've not forgotten. Is it because you choose to remember them, or prefer to remember them to strengthen your resolve now to help others?
I think probably for 14 years I didn't want to remember them. I'd moved on, I was in a relationship, I was living in a house, and it's when I went and did the big sleep out, and Jonathan, who was giving the talk, mentioned about it. It just hit me like a train in the chest, and I was fortunate that I was in an environment I could talk to people. And yeah, it was harrowing at the time in terms of that realisation, but now, yeah, it has helped me understand and realise and given me a real strength.
Presumably your current workforce, apart from some of the internet stuff we've been doing, had no idea about your backstory. What has been the reaction now that they have discovered it?
I think it's just coming out, so it's early days. Certainly lots of support, but it's shock. It is that kind of curve I think people don't expect. And my work colleagues at the time didn't appreciate it because I still dressed smartly, I still went about a day job, I didn't talk about it. And I think it's that hidden homelessness that we just don't appreciate or realise. So I think if this raises that profile and enables more people to talk or just ask questions if they're in that situation, then that's why I want to speak out about this.
Anyone can offer advice about being homeless, but action speaks louder than words. You're raising money tonight to help, but in the longer term, is there more you feel you can do personally to assist?
Homelessness and rough sleeping is never going to go away. Over 250,000 people are estimated to be homeless at one point, be that visible or hidden in any one year. That is a massive issue to tackle nationally, let alone locally. But doing things like the Big Sleep Out, supporting Cambridge United Foundation and Winter Comfort on nights like this can help raise awareness, it can help raise funds. And if you can give, be surprised about how little a donation can really help with somebody's mental and physical care.
And it must be difficult, maybe even frustrating, when you sit in council meetings where homelessness perhaps is being discussed and not everyone knows about your background or have as much empathy for their cause as you.
I think society can be dismissive, it can be situational, and I certainly find that on times in other organisations I've worked for, that has been frustrating because it's more the inaction and bureaucracy and talk rather than action. And I think if people had to spend a night, 2 nights longer, they might just appreciate it a little bit more.
Finally, what would be a good outcome from tonight's efforts? Is it the amount raised or the awareness created of homelessness or a bit of both?
We've got 115 people sleeping out tonight. We've got a target to raise 40,000. I think we've already got 20,000 and the night is just starting. So that sponsorship can make such a massive difference here in Cambridge, but it's that awareness. If you're in that situation or you know somebody that you think could be in that situation, just having that conversation and reaching out to people and wondering what can you do.
Is this very much about sort of you tonight, your sort of experience, or also that kind of shared history with your son, and how is he doing now?
So he's doing good. He's in a great position right now. And I think it coincided at the time with my understanding of the fact that I was actually homeless. I was able to relate and articulate to him. As a result of that night, I've become a board member of that homeless hostel back where I live, and I've got the chance to speak to so many people and hear about their experiences of fear, their experiences of anxiety, of trying to come across some of the most harrowing scenarios. Often people that have gone through the care system have been abused or taken to drugs. Some of these situations are harrowing for us to talk about, but we must talk about them, because actually that's the only way we can raise awareness and help people. So yes, it's about my experiences and my family's experiences, but we've come through that. There are so many people still going through it and will go through it. And that's what we've got to be there to support. These are the most vulnerable in our society.